Hey, welcome back to this week's Tea Talks. I'm Michael Hearn, and today we are discussing our creamy oolong tea. The creamy oolong tea is very, very special because it's, if you're familiar with oolong teas, it's kind of a hybrid. So it's going to be in between a black tea and a green tea. It looks, when you're looking at the leaf itself, for those of you watching this in video format, it's a very dark green, almost like an evergreen. And it just comes out really, really nice. So without further ado, I'm going to start making this. So special thing about creamy oolong tea is that oolong is actually fermented. And so what that means is you're going to get a really bold flavor in addition to having some lighter texture. So for example, with this creamy oolong, it's just an organic oolong with a bit of milk. And it's going to come through in terms of the color. We're expecting a slight green color with just a little bit of milkiness in terms of when you're looking at the water. This steeper is also really cool. It's got a built-in steeper right here, and then I put the tea in it. You saw me do that, and then we're just going to screw it on and let it sit. So that'll infuse while we continue talking. But oolong is just very delicate. It's sometimes floral, sometimes it's bitter, depending on which shade that you're going with. I personally really enjoy oolong teas. They're one of my favorites. So yeah, that's the creamy oolong. That's the tea on that. And kind of talking about psychology in terms of tea and psychology and everything going on in our world. I recently found out that tea helps improve brain performance. So what that means essentially, my grandmother had a tumor. For those of you who know me, when I was about 16, I want to say I was about 16 years old, she had brain surgery in North Carolina. And what they found after her tumor was that her memory didn't quite function the way that it had prior to operating for the surgery. And so whether that's because of damage the tumor had done or chemicals that it released in the brain, specifically in the front lobal region, she has difficulty with memories. However, tea has recently been proven to impact kind of Alzheimer's symptoms and forgetfulness. There's an article that you can read today by Psychology Today, released in 2017, that discusses how tea can actually help you remember where your car keys are. So if you're like me, you might be forgetful. I ask my wife maybe 6 or 7 times a week where my car keys are because I've misplaced them, or where my wallet is, or what did I do with my backpack, things like that. And tea is able to kind of reverse that. So not to say that it would completely cure Alzheimer's or that you would wake up, instantly cured. But drinking tea repetitively is known to decrease the amount of blockages that we have in our brain. And so what that means is that by drinking tea, we're actually thinning the parts where our brain send information. So through those little travel ways, we're actually thinning down the junk and things that accrue over our years on this earth, allowing it to pass through information to pass through properly and efficiently. And so one of the many reasons to drink tea is it will improve your cognitive health, but also tea is known to de-stress. So in our first week, we talked about taking time for ourselves. In our second week, we talked about community and being physically involved. And this week, we're talking about de-stressing and improving our mental health physically by drinking tea, as well as in other ways, such as taking the time for ourselves and things of that nature. Tea helps a lot of people. That's why when you look at other countries that have lower rates of Alzheimer's, are typically increased tea drinkers, such as India or China or Sri Lanka, even Russia. And so when you start to study why that's so important in their diet, whether they're high collagen based or they're just drinking a lot of tea, or they're growing a lot of tea, or they're not consuming as much of the sugars and carbohydrates as normal, they tend to have a lot better health. And so my challenge to everyone is to just start drinking more tea and focus on your mental health. As for this oolong tea, it looks like it's done. We got the perfect color that we were hoping to get. I'll take this off and you should be able to see it. So it's almost like just slightly yellowed, which is what you want because this tea is very, very light. And so I'll give it a taste test for you. That is delicious. That is perfection is what that is. The milky oolong is my favorite oolong that I carry, much less that I've had, because it's so light, and I'm not sure if you can see that. You might be able to, but it's very light in terms of how the leaf itself brews, and then it's very delicate. Like I just broke it in half and broke it in half again. It's very, very delicate. It's not oxidized as long as other teas. And then with the creamy oolong, what they do is they put it into a milk steam bath before they start to bake it and prepare it to be sent off. And so it just soaks in all of that milky goodness. And then when they bake it, of course, it's stuck inside the tea. And so it just oxidizes well. It's got a great milky taste to it. It's got a beautiful color. It's translucent, so right now we can see through it with the exception of a few areas. And overall, it's just a really good tea. So recap briefly. First week was about tea and taking time for yourself. Second week was about community. Third week is about mental health. Take a break for yourself. Quit pushing yourself so hard. It's okay to relax and enjoy life. Also, drink tea to help your mental health in terms of remembering things and the ability to continually develop your mind and your brain, and ultimately just giving it that revitalization that it might need. Thank you so much for watching this week, and I'll see you next week.